Welcome back to Vine Chat, a little offshoot of Wild Wine Life. And we are fortunate enough to have Gary Eberle, a longtime friend of Wild Wine Life and just a longtime friend. And Gary has probably one of the more interesting backgrounds. So thank you, Gary, for the wonderful, wonderful plug. He's been a big supporter of Wild Wine Life from early on. And I'll tell you what, you've lived multiple lives over the course of your lifetime. Your undergrad at Penn State, in which you played defensive tackle while majoring in biology, not the easy major for any sports scholarship person. Then you went to LSU and you got your graduate degree in cellular genetics at a fellowship at Charity Hospital. Not easy to say, and I'm sure we hung out at some of the same bars.
Oh, yeah.
Years apart. And that's where you fell in love with wine. You studied for your doctoral degree for enology at UC Davis. You co-founded the Paso Robles appellation. You were the first guy to commercially produce Syrah. You've received the several awards, including the Robert Mondavi Hospitality Award, the California State Fair Lifetime Achievement Award, Person of the Year from PRWCA. Your most current award in 2020 is the American Legend Wine Star from Wine Enthusiast. And you've just somehow found a way to log in over 7,000 hours of flight time. Am I missing anything in all of this?
Well, you're also, I'm California's cutest winemaker.
Okay, we'll go with that. Just a big, fuzzy, lovable teddy bear, right?
Yeah, warm and fuzzy.
Now, you told me that back in the day, during your time in New Orleans, you marched in, well, first of all, we both share a love for the Big Easy.
Oh, yeah.
And you said that your wife taught over in Plaquemines, which back in the 60s, early 70s was not necessarily the easiest place to be teaching at, while you were marching in civil rights marches and debating this unknown guy named David Duke.
Oh, yeah. I had him as a student, and I used to debate him at Free Speech Alley. But my wife worked at Sunshine High School for 4 years. And the first 2 years, it was an all-black. She was the only white person on the campus. And then the next year, there was essentially no school. Everybody showed up, but it was that crazy year. And then the fourth year, the last year that we were there, it was an integrated high school, black and white.
Wow.
But we were there right at all the transition. That was the summer, 1970 was the summer of the freedom marches. And they were a lot of fun.
Can you imagine? You mentioned that was back when Judge Perez was running things.
Oh, yeah, Leander Perez.
And during my time down there, I heard a few stories about old Judge Perez and how he even stood up to some of the feds. That must have been interesting to actually run into him face to face on opposite sides.
Yeah, well, I was young and idealistic, and it was a very good time, but it was a very crazy time too. But I loved my time down in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and in New Orleans. I still have a whole lot of friends down there. And Louisiana is still our third largest market, behind California and Texas. We sell more wine in Louisiana than just about anywhere.
Now, you also used to hang out at Parlay's. That was one of my haunts and accounts back in the day. And then Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop.
Mm-hmm.
Any other favorite haunts?
Go down to Lafitte's and get a couple of Sazeracs and then try to find your way home. Make sure that when you walked out the door, you turned right and not left. Back when I was at LSU, I mean, we're talking the late '60s and up to '71. Bourbon Street was still, it wasn't a T-shirt, every place a T-shirt shop. And there were a lot of places along there. And then you'd get off, on some of the, even down Dauphine, St. Peter's. I mean, there were so many places we used to hang out. And, we almost every night we'd wind up at Preservation Hall for a couple hours and then finish up the night at the Café du Monde and try to sober up a little. I still have shirts with there's enough white powdered sugar on them that it'll never come out.
I used to hang over at Johnny White's across the street from Preservation Hall around 3 in the morning before making it down to Cafe du Monde or for a Cajun burger at Igor's.
I remember when I was down there and people would come to visit us from up north and they would always want to go to Pat O'Brien's and get a hurricane. I think, that's the official drink in New Orleans. No, the official drink in New Orleans is a Sazerac. Pat O'Brien's is, it's a college hangout, and I spent a lot of time there. I don't want to say under duress. I mean, I always had a good time there, but I preferred a lot of the dives. I mean, I remember when Mother's was just, this tiny little place over in the corner of Poydras and Tchoupitoulas. And I can't tell you how many plates of red beans and rice with a side of greens I've had at Mother's over the years. Every Monday, man, that was a go-to. Had to do it.
You must have been in heaven with free red beans and rice on Monday Night Football with big pictures.
Hey, I had, like I said, I spent 4 years in Louisiana, and I have nothing but good memories. Well, there were a couple that were not, but collected a lot of snakes, spent a lot of time walking through the Atchafalaya, even at night.
Now, here's the thing for you, and I mentioned this before. I was working with Heather Rammel. At the time, she was the national sales manager for Mart and Wyrick, and she was talking about how, as a kid, her and her brother used to play in your barrel room as kids, and then grows up to be the godfather of Moscato out in the area. And I thought that was kind of a neat story about just exactly how much of an influence you've had on Paso over the years. I mean, you helped found the appellation. And
I grew up the borders, and I did the most of the scientific work, the geology, the meteorology. Tom Martin, who passed at Martin Brothers Winery, he was really he did most. He had a lot of money. He did most of the legal part of it and the actual description. But me and Vic Roberts, Victor Hugo, we pulled up the borders, and we actually changed the borders twice. Once to get it far enough out that when Justin opened his winery about a decade or so later, that we included Justin. And then when Mr. Mondavi came down and started working Santa Margarita Ranch and eventually sold it over to a group of guys in town, and Santa Margarita was not in the Paso appellation. And we increased the border down to the south because we wanted everybody. And now we've got, 250 bonded wineries and probably another 50 virtual in Paso, and great rest. I mean, when I came to Paso Robles in May of '73, when I came down from Davis, there weren't even 7,000 people in Paso Robles. And the best we had a couple of good breakfast restaurants and a couple of good luncheon places, but dinner in Paso Robles in 1973, it was rather abysmal because people there weren't any tourists, and people, these are all farm people, and they had dinner at home. I remember you could go down on a Saturday night, and every parking spot around the city park was open. I mean, you could park anywhere. Now it's like if you find a parking spot in downtown Paso Robles on a Friday, Saturday, or almost any night in the summer, it's like winning the lottery. It's crazy. And Paso is well over 40,000 people now and growing. We've got great restaurants. We've got great hotels, everything from Motel 6 to, Cheval Blanc and Bellicera and Allegretto. Man, it's almost a complete resort and first class. Everything you can have, just about anything you want in Paso.
Here's a question. You mentioned Mr. Mondavi coming down and including him. Was there anything that you picked up as far as a life lesson in regard to wine from him?
Oh, I tell everybody I've had three mentors in my life. One that you wouldn't know, and then Joe Paterno at Penn State, and Robert Mondavi. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't, in some way or another, channel Mr. Mondavi. He is, to me, the greatest thing that ever happened to the California wine industry. I sometimes wonder if our industry would have ever gotten, or when it would have gotten to where we are now if it hadn't been for Mr. Mondavi. He was, and I mean this in the most complimentary sense, he was the P.T. Barnum of our industry. I mean, he drug us into the 21st century wine industry. I can say anything. I hope I never say anything bad about the man, because I'll tell you, he helped me so immensely.
You know what I find interesting about Mr. Mondavi is that when someone's building an appellation, they always say, I want to be the Robert Mondavi of that appellation. And I think that says it right there.
Mm.
I know you're the big Penn State fan and the LSU fan, and we've kind of talked about this before.
Amen.
Who do you think is going to do better?
It's on the neck. Penn State, baby.
Who do you think is going to do better? And how many times have you felt split loyalty when they've played each other?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
So which team do you think will go further this year for their season? And how many times have you kind of felt torn when they've played one another?
Oh, in the Big Ten, particularly the Big Ten East Division, you've got Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and every year Ohio State is. I don't think there's many people that would say they don't have the best recruiting and the best athletes. Although Penn State, Franklin's doing a heck of a darn job. But Ohio State, when I played, we were an independent, and we played Ohio State twice, both times at the Horseshoe when Woody Hayes was coach, and we won both games. In fact, did you ever send you the movie Full Bore?
No.
Oh, well, when this is over, I will send you a movie, and there's a play where I ran down a halfback from behind in the Horseshoe, and Ohio State was undefeated, number 2 in the nation. We came in with 3 losses, and then we beat them 27-0. The quietest that stadium has ever been.
Wow.
We couldn't do anything wrong. Everything we did was right. When the ball bounced, it bounced to us. If there was a tip ball, it was to one of our guys. It was just one of those games, because Ohio State had a much better team than we did. but are not much better. But I mean, but they were, Penn State was just becoming Penn State. Ohio State had been Ohio State for a couple of decades. So, but I will send you the link as soon as we're off.
I bet a lot of bookies are crying that night.
Oh boy, 27-0. I mean, we were like a 15-point dog.
Oh, I'll have to tell you about some of the bookmakers I used to call on back in the day, and that would have been something that would have upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh,
now we also played my senior year. We also played Michigan State the year that they tied for the national championship with Notre Dame, and that tie game that. And we lost to them. It was a home game for us, but we didn't lose badly, and it wasn't like we got our butts handed to us. But we had good teams. But our big games were Pitt, West Virginia, and Syracuse. The hated Orangemen.
Let me ask you this: how can people order your wine online, and how can they follow
you? EberleWinery.com. At our website, and there's all kinds of stuff about what's coming up. Our Christmas dinner is coming up. We do a black tie dinner every year, both for Christmas and for Valentine's Day down in the caves. Dining room, you sit down in the caves. Special events, all the things that we're doing are and how to get Eberle wine. We only market in 28 states and 3 countries in Europe. Everyone thinks we're a big winery. We don't even have enough wine to sell in all the markets. But we have a lot of fun, and we will get you wine, particularly in the states where we don't market or don't sell wine. But it's about half of them. But even in the states where we do have distribution, we can ship. Join the wine club and ship wine to you.
Well, I appreciate the time you've given me, all the help and the education over the years. Ray here with Mr. Gary Eberle from Eberle Winery. Don't forget to hunt a dream, and here's to living the wild wine life.
Good night, Ray.